Hearing voices. Hearing voices.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This is Hearing Voices. Conversations with the voices that bring the excitement of college sports alive.
No headphone can capture the complex bourbon and butter flavor of my actual timber.
Now, here's your host, the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
And away we go. That's right. It is game week. Finally, LSU going to hit the gridiron. They'll take on UCLA coming up this weekend from beautiful Pasadena, California, inside the world-famous Rose Bowl. And, well, of course, with the Tigers taking on the Bruins, it is Hearing Voices. And as the big voice guy told you, you guessed it. We're going to talk to the voice of the UCLA Bruins. But, before we bring him on, I got to tell you, this is kind of my self-indulgence here. It's my chance to talk to the guys and gals that I listen to, and Josh is one of those, and has been for a long time, because he's covered everything, and he has been the voice on some great moments for some iconic teams, whether it be pro teams, Major League Baseball, television on Fox for the NFL, and in 2016 took over as the voice of the UCLA Bruins. I got to bring him in, otherwise I could keep talking about him the entire time. And Josh, thanks for joining us here on Hearing Voices. It is, as I mentioned, a true pleasure and a lot of fun to have you on the show.
You guys do such a great job, too. I'm excited to welcome you all to the Rose Bowl. I think you're going to love it, and it should be about a 90-degree, sunny late afternoon when you set up, and the fans will be out, which we haven't seen, obviously, in a long time, so everybody's really, really fired up that LSU is coming in. It's I know, like, not a traditional rivalry or anything, but it's two storied programs and fan bases that are very proud. So glad we can kind of get this thing going finally. Yeah,
I know a lot of people, obviously, I meant to say from the outset, as we're recording here today, still a lot of people suffering across Louisiana, for that matter, the Gulf Coast, due to Hurricane Ida. And, I heard Coach O talk about it yesterday, sent a tweet out that while, our thoughts and prayers are with them and the long recovery, that this game really takes on a lot for LSU, because it's somewhat, hopefully, on Saturday, going to take people's mind off of the devastation for at least a couple of hours. So to be sure, everybody's excited to get out there and take part in this game. I mentioned that you have covered everything, and part of this show we're going to talk a little football, but mainly it's a chance to talk to broadcasters. And as I said, I'm a huge fan and have been a huge fan for a long time. But first off, congratulations. I mean, you guys, week 0, 44-10. Last year the offense had no issue, the defense maybe a little bit, but everything looked pretty good on Saturday. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and thank you again for the kind words too. But they are, I think, ready to rock and roll finally. It's year 4 for Chip Kelly. People have been very, very slow to the take here. The bandwagon has stalled because, this guy was 43-7 at Oregon, and he started out 10-21 at UCLA. So people are like, what is going on here? And his parable is always water the bamboo, which is, and I didn't know this about bamboo because I didn't grow up around bamboo, but apparently you water the hell out of it, and nothing happens for a while. You just got to kind of wait. Then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and there's a big bamboo tree that you watered, and you're like, oh, okay, well, there's the fruit of my labor. So that was the homily, right? I mean, that's what he was kind of preaching after 3 years of pretty bad football. And now early returns we're seeing some bamboo here in year 4. So people are excited about that. They will get a very stiff test, though, obviously, this Saturday.
Let's talk about the young Josh Lewin. I saw a recent interview where you talked about you really grew up and called yourself a broadcasting nerd. This is what you wanted to do, which I find fascinating. I grew up around the business and wanted nothing to do with it growing up. Yeah. And somehow we both ended up here. But you really took to it at an early age.
I did. I mean, I was one of those kids that, and this is before you could listen to everything on Sirius XM radio. I mean, heck, it was before there was ESPN when I grew up. I'm in my 50s now. So, but I was blessed. And I grew up in Rochester, New York, where we're kind of geographically situated where you could pull in all kinds of different radio signals, 50,000 watt stations from the East, from the Midwest, from Pittsburgh, from, just all over. So I listened all the time and would practice in front of the TV on Monday Night Football, grab like a soup spoon and pretend that was a microphone. And there was never any question this is what I wanted to do. I don't know how healthy that is. I, never wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut or anything like that. So very single-minded pursuit, and it's led on a really cool journey. Led me here to the West Coast and UCLA. Was doing the Chargers for forever here in San Diego, so I'm still living in the San Diego area, commute up to LA for the games, and it's a great lifestyle, and I love it.
Let's talk about the differences, of doing professional sports and college sports. And not only that, but maybe a deeper dive, Josh, in the fact that there were times where you were the team broadcaster for a professional team. There were times you were doing national games covering and having to do research on both teams very in depth. And now handling as the voice and one of the images of UCLA. What are the differences to you as a broadcaster, pro versus college? Because it seems like with the things that have happened in college sports the last couple of months, the two are starting to get a little similar.
Yeah, those lines are getting blurry. You're right. And initially, this is exactly the jump-off point that I really wanted. I mean, not that I got jaded by doing pro sports. I loved it. I did a lot of baseball for, Texas Rangers and then the New York Mets and some other teams. There's just something about, and heck, LSU does it better than anybody. The whole tailgate atmosphere, and everybody's wearing the same colors, and everybody's kind of in lockstep, and you've got this common thread, and there's just this feel-good. And I missed that with the NFL. I mean, obviously the Saints are, again, probably the best example of that. The Chargers had a modicum of that, and don't have any of it now that they're up in LA because they made a very ill-advised move in many people's opinion. But that common ground really appealed to me, and UCLA is just such an iconic brand. I mean, I've just always loved the colors and loved who they are and what they stand for, from John Wooden on the basketball court to Terry Donahue in football. Just it spoke to me, not to be weird about it, but this was a great transition.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can, speak to that. I mean, this is, once I did kind of focus in on what I wanted to do, it was heroes growing up. Kaywood Ledford at the University of Kentucky, where I grew up, John Ward nearby in Tennessee.
Sure.
Woody Durham at North Carolina. I had the chance to be exposed to those guys, and that's what I always wanted to be in that college setting. Subtle differences, or maybe not so subtle differences, between television and radio as far as the way you approach it?
Well, I've done a lot of TV, and frankly, I don't miss it a heck of a lot. I mean, radio is a total blank canvas, and you can paint on it however you want to. And I love that. I love being Paul Revere on the horse, telling people what's going on. And in TV, they don't really need you that much, or you're just kind of icing on the cake. And there's a lot of money in TV, and that's great. But, just in terms of a storytelling medium, and I love telling stories, you can't beat radio. And you tend to take on a little bit more responsibility, and I kind of like that.
Josh Lewin, voice of the UCLA Bruins, will be on the call this coming Saturday as LSU and UCLA get together in the Rose Bowl. You mentioned being exposed to probably some world-class broadcasters as a young man in the New York area. I'd be interested to know now, when you're out, you're on a road trip, you got to go somewhere, are there broadcasters working now that you're huge fans of that you go, hey, this team's on, I know they're on the call, let me search them out, whether it be satellite radio or streaming? Who are some of those folks?
That's such a loaded question because I'm going to leave 8 people out if I mention 7. So I will say that these days, I mean, my goodness, it's become just this embarrassment of wealth. There are so many people that are good at this, men and women now, which is great that it's becoming more democratic in that regard. And growing up, I mean, the Mets guys were kind of my guys, Bob Murphy and later Howie Rose, and I got to listen to Ernie Harwell coming off of WJR in Detroit, and John Miller and Chuck Thompson and those guys in Baltimore. And the crazy thing is, Chris, I got to work with a lot of those guys who were my heroes. I mean, Harry Carey was more TV than radio, but I had a year with Harry in Chicago, and it just seems like I've been really blessed to kind of brush up against a lot of the guys that I grew up listening to. And these days, I mean, yeah, the whole landscape is dotted with people who just do this thing a lot better than me. They just do it really well.
Yeah, I always try to find, and there's a bunch of people that I listen to and I search out because I'm trying to steal everything they do and try to incorporate that into what I do. Take us through for those fans who, again, I think are, it's almost as if we guys or us in the business show up and, the game happens. But obviously, that there's a lot of work ahead of it. So now we are not quite middle of the week, but closing in on the middle of the week. How much hay is in the barn for the game for you coming up between LSU and UCLA?
Yeah, well, my hay is underway right here. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's kind of nut cutting time. I mean, that's when we really go get it. And these days it's just so easy to do so much from home. And the pandemic, unfortunately, kind of reinforced that. With Zooms and everything available on the internet. I mean, I don't have to be physically at practice all the time. I mean, if they're practicing right now, I'm down here in Solana Beach. And where, by the way, I've got the fan on, because we don't have air conditioning because we don't need it. It's normally like 75 all the time. We got this heat wave pushing it into the 80s and close to 90. But the ability to homeschool, so to speak, and do a lot of your prep just right from your rec room or whatever is really cool. That was not something that existed 10, 20 years ago.
Real quick before I let you go, one of the things, reading up on you, I found very fascinating and interesting was a couple of years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably were the first in our business, our profession, to really come out and talk about the issues of mental health. And, I'm asked a lot when you run out somewhere that, you go and do this and you do this meeting or you MC this event or you call this game, that you must not get nervous about anything. And the truth is that couldn't be farther from the truth. And I know, just reading some of the stuff you've talked about, there's some natural anxiety that's probably good, keeps you on your toes, but then it can become debilitating. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to point out your website, because it's not just broadcasters, it's all of us.
Well, that's very nice of you, Chris. And yeah, it just kind of became apparent to me as I got older that we all do deal with something. I think the danger is people suffer in silence and think they're the only one that has some sort of feeling or some sort of doubt or some sort of worry. And I think the pandemic ripped a lot of those Band-Aids off. I mean, we're all hurting in some way. And to find a community of people that hear you, that understand you, that can kind of work with you, and even if it's just trading stories back and forth, I think it's really helpful. And oktogether.com is the website that I came up with. And I'm no expert in the field or anything. I just kind of wanted to put a clearinghouse together where people could come and kind of look at other people's stories and feel like they're in a safe space to tell their own. But nobody's got this all figured out. We all, you and I, our job on Saturday is to make it sound like we got it all figured out. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But the fact that we are all in this together, not to be cliche or trite about it, I think is just kind of a helpful piece of knowledge sometimes. So, we're hopefully all of us together as a planet working towards that. That's my hope.
Josh Lewin, voice of the UCLA Bruins. You can find him on Twitter at Josh Lewin Stuff. A couple of more things, and I'll let you go as you get ready for the game this week. You mentioned coming up and deciding to be in the broadcast business, and I get a lot of students here at LSU that want to go into this business, TV, radio, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, whatever the case may be. And it seems to me that there are so many more opportunities to get involved and get some experience, and as we used to call it, get those reps, as opposed to what it was like when you and I were trying to find our way.
Yeah, this is now, it's such a different landscape. It's not even close. You can do your own thing. You can Twitch stream, you can YouTube, there are so many different ways to not only get practice, but get your name out there. And it's really just a matter of deciding to do it and working on it. Like you said, it's all about reps. You get better and better. If you're a weightlifter, you get bigger and stronger by actually lifting weights, so that there's no substitute. You got to broadcast if you're going to be a better broadcaster. And it's a total DIY now. You can do it literally yourself. You don't need to wait for somebody to hire you. You can just start. And I think that's part of why there are so many really good young talents right now. You can practice in front of your own system, gaming system. You've got your Madden up in front of you, and you can do your own play-by-play. We used to have to wait until a game actually came on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday night to practice if we wanted to practice. So get your reps in and dive into the pool and know it's not going to happen overnight, but there are a lot of opportunities. You're right.
Last thing I have for you, and we'll talk football. I mentioned in the outset last year 3-4, and from all indications, it felt like I think those 4 games, 15 points total, about 35 points a game. I think offensively, right at around 30 points defensively. To me, listening to everybody, it was the defense that really had to step up. Watching them on Saturday against Hawaii, I mean, it looked like they set the table. Got some takeaways, set up great field position. The offense did their job, knocked them down. Coming away from that game, what did you, going into the game, want to see that turned out? And then secondly, what do you think the biggest steps are to try to shore up with arguably a much more talented team with UCLA, with LSU coming up Saturday?
Right. Yeah, it's a tough comparison. I mean, Hawaii and LSU were 2 totally different animals here. So it was good. This is, I call it the salad before the steak. I mean, this was a nice little warm-up act, but Hawaii is Hawaii, and they tried their best. God love them, but that game was over at the coin toss. So it's gonna be very, very different against LSU. Our quarterback has got to be better. He's capable of that. He's a 4th-year guy, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He was missing a ton of throws, easy throws on last Saturday. I think he'll be very good in this game. I think he's motivated to show everybody that he's right. And defensively, yeah, I mean, they do need to step it up. They certainly did against Hawaii. You guys will test the heck out of them this coming Saturday. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's like a 37-34 game, and I have no idea who wins.
You on the Charbonnet for Heisman wagon yet? Has that started?
I know. It sounds like he's been playing for you guys. He's got the Cajun last name and everything. But he's been transferring from Michigan, and we're wondering what the hell Jim Harbaugh was thinking letting him go. But thank you for letting him come home.
No doubt about it. Josh, I want to thank you for taking time out to join us. Really do appreciate it. As I mentioned, a longtime fan of your work, and looking forward to hopefully meeting you in person there at the Rose Bowl coming up on Saturday.
You bet, Chris. I look forward to it too. We'll roll. Matt, bring your deodorant. It's going to be hot.
You got it. Josh Lewin, everybody, has been our guest here on Hearing Voices, the season premiere. I want to thank him for stopping by. I want to thank you for doing the same. And don't forget, subscribe. And whenever a new episode drops, it'll be right there waiting for you on your preferred mobile device. Quick reminder, this Saturday, 5:30 Central Time, we'll kick things off with LSU Game Day. And, of course, the kickoff between the Bruins and Tigers coming your way at 7:30 right here on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Until next week, this is Chris Blair, still Hearing Voices. So long, everybody. Go Tigers.
Hearing Voices is a production of LSUSP and Playfly Sports. Hit the subscribe button now and never miss a new episode. You can follow Chris at LSU Tigers Voice. The LSU Sports Radio Network, a division of LSUSP and Playfly Sports.